Yo, 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 what is up, guys? I know your boy has not done one of these in a long time, so I definitely do apologize for being MIA. There's really no excuse, to be honest. Like, I can say I've been busy, but, I definitely apologize for not giving you guys content, and just basically being a ghost. But that's not important. I'm back now. We've been having a very interesting football season, so I figured why not discuss where all the teams are at right now, and kind of see, what we expected, in terms of how they've been starting the season. So I'm going to pull up a tier list. We've done this whole shebang before. I'm going to pull up a tier list. We're going to go through some of the teams in this list. Like, obviously, we're not going to go through all of them, but we're going to go through the teams that we care about in this list. We're going to rank how they've started the season so far and just what we can say about them. So I definitely want to get your guys' involvement as well. Just let me know what you guys have been thinking of the season so far. Have you guys enjoyed it? Have you guys liked it? Has it just been what you expected? Has it been unpredictable? There's a lot that we can say about what's been going on. So anyway, let's get on with the list. So the first team we have here, and we're gonna respect our Bundesliga teams, man. So we have here is Borussia Mönchengladbach. Now, I'm not gonna act like I've watched a lot of games from them this season because I definitely have not. However, just even kind of looking at what they've been doing right now, they're currently only had 9 points this season. Uh, Granted, they have kind of picked it up a little bit, uh, winning two games, winning their first two games this like 2 weeks ago. So I guess they're in a bit of an upswing right now. But overall, this season, teetering that the way they have, right? Only a couple points above the relegation zone. So it's an obvious F. I don't really think it needs any kind of like deep explanation. This is a team that just a couple years ago was in the Champions League. And so obviously, even for a team that's not that high up like that, standards wise, just you wouldn't really be expecting them to be competing in the relegation zone. So obviously, there's not been a great start to the season for them. So I'm going to put them in F. And next up, we have Frankfurt. Um, Now, from the little I've seen of Frankfurt, I'm really impressed by their number 10. Where is he at? The Turkish kid, the Can Uzun. I really like the look of him. He's kind of like a weird number 10 false nine hybrid. Like, he has really good goal scoring, um, decent dribbler, good touch. And he's really young. He's only 20 years old as well. And he is incredibly advanced for his age. So right now they're currently seventh in the table, which is kind of impressive especially when you consider the fact that they lost, Marmouche and the half season back in January, and they lost Ekitike over the summer. They're still averaging over 2 goals a game. Obviously, that defense is not looking great, conceding 19 goals in 10 matches. But I think, given the fact that they've been having to balance out, Europe in the Champions League, as well as, what they've been doing in the Bundesliga, still kind of being around those European spots. I'm actually curious as to see what they've been doing in the Champions League. So in the Champions League, they are currently only won one game, so not great. And so they beat Galatasaray, they lost to Atletico, they lost to Liverpool, and they drew with Napoli. So the Champions League campaign hasn't been great. Two back-to-back 5-1 losses is not amazing. But I think given how decently they're doing in the league, given the type of players they've lost, I'm probably going to put them in at C. I think they've made somewhat of a respectable account of themselves. It's, again, given everything that they have going on this summer. So now we got Fiorentina, and they have been horrible, 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 horrible this season. Moise Keane, who was someone that I've repped a decent amount, has been pretty much trash. They're bottom of the league. They're winless in 11 games, only scored 9 goals. I mean, it kind of just goes without saying. Pioli left after 10 games. The new manager just came in. He hasn't won a game yet. And, losing their old manager really did them in, I guess. So, given all of that, there has to be an immediate F. Like, it goes without saying. Like, being not dead last, but being last, coming off, being in a European spot last season. Because I believe last season, I want to say they finished. See, where did they finish last season? So yeah, last season they finished in 6th. So that is just a complete and utterly unacceptable fall off. So yeah, they have to occupy F. Honestly, they might actually be the worst. Like, I don't rank in between tiers, but if I did, they would have to be the lowest team by far, just given the nonsense that they've been doing. And then next up, so I'm going to skip a lot of these teams that I've definitely never watched, to be honest with you. I'm just going to move them down here, to be honest, just to keep the list not looking right. Also, Union really got an interesting logo. So next up, we're going to talk about Bournemouth, who, honestly, I have to give them a lot of props. They lost pretty much their entire back line. They lost Horson to Real Madrid. They lost Zabrani to PSG. Right? They lost Kirkez to Liverpool. This season, they have been, even though they've lost a lot of these players, they've kind of been continuing from where they left off, in terms of their performance levels, which is obviously not easy to do. Which is obviously not easy to do when, they lost all the players that they've lost. And I think that what's probably been key for them has been their ability to maintain their pressure-oriented play style. Their press is still really impressive. They're still one of the best teams in the leagues in terms of intercepting the ball, in terms of winning possession in the final third. So, given all of that, given the fact that I think right now they're currently in 9th place, although they're in that kind of cluster where they're really only 2 points off of third. I think that they have done a lot. They've done really well for themselves, given all the context that I've laid out. So I'd probably give them an A. It probably would have been an S, but the last 2 games, getting smacked up by Aston Villa, who themselves were not doing the best up until this recent spell, and then losing to, I guess they lost to City as well. So they haven't really been losing to bum ass teams, but they've conceded what? They've conceded, I want to say, 7 goals in their last 2 matches. So it doesn't look for great reading either. So I'm going to put them at an A because of that. So next up, okay. Sorry, Auxerre. Sorry, Angers. Or is it Anger? I don't know how to pronounce that. Next up, we got the Arsenal. Now, they're actually a funny-ass team to rank because... So, this season, Arsenal have lost one game this year. Is it one? Because I think they made it through the EFL Cup. Yeah, so they've only lost one game this entire season. So obviously you have to give them props for that. Defensively, they've only conceded 5 goals in the Champions League and in the Premier League combined. Um, they've won 12, drew 2, and lost 1 in their Premier League and Champions League games so far. So goes without saying they've been near perfect. Defensively has been their bread and butter. Offensively, obviously we know about their ability to score set pieces, the ability for their defenders to get headers off, the ability for what's it called? The ability for them to maintain their leads. So I would have to give them an S. Obviously, playstyle wise, they've not exactly been throwing down and thrilling everyone and blowing teams away for the most part, but the results speak for themselves. The consistency speaks for itself. So you can't really take that away from them. Whether you want to talk about a quote unquote boring play style or not, I think you always have to keep that in mind, right? Like the ability to play um, consistently and consistently see out games no matter what environment you're talking about, whether it's you're playing a small team, you're playing a big team, you have to give them props for their ability to do that. So I'm going to give them a S. So next up, we have Roma. They have been pretty good as well. They're currently second in Serie A. They have been another team that, they had gotten Gasperini, who was previously the coach of Atalanta. And my thing with Roma is just the fact that their attack is basically non-existent. Like their top goal scorer in the league has 3 goals. So, you kind of have to wonder like how long is it gonna last. And even in the Europa League, they lost to Victoria Paisan back in late October, right? Although they also being Rangers and Nice. So, you look at what they're doing in the league. Like I said, mostly been getting by on their defense. They have the best defense in the league. They have tied for the most clean sheets in the league. Offensively, they're not creating that many chances. They're 8th for like expected goals, 12th for big chances created. They're not really like it's weird because they have a lot of possession, but they don't really do anything amazing with it. They're not the most creative. So I think for Roma, like as good as they've been, I don't know how sustainable it's going to be. Given all of the things that I ironed out, that I see that's just kind of like, a red flag to me. Um, and my thing is for them is just, you know, at some point you can defend as well as you want. At some point the ball got to go in the back of the net, bro. And only scoring 12 goals so far this season is I don't know how sustainable it's going to be. But anyway, for now though, they've been solid defensively and they're second in Serie A, so that definitely has to count for something. And it'll be interesting to see um, how so well they were able to sustain it. So I want to put them at honestly, I'm probably going to put them at a B, just because I can't really overlook those issues that I named out, and I might even move Bournemouth down to a B as well, just because I don't think Bournemouth have done anything um, significantly better than Roma, so I don't want to punish them either. Um, and speaking of Gasperini, we have his old team, Atalanta, who have not been amazing, to say the least, this season. So they're currently in 13th in the league. They have been one of the more, I don't know, because they've been kind of just average. I guess maybe you could say like defensively, they've not been the best, but like they're not really like I don't really know what's wrong with them, to be honest. Like because like you kind of look at a lot of their statistics, and there's nothing that really stands out as being absurdly terrible. Now, obviously, they lost. Oh my goodness, I forgot his name. They lost Retegui or Retegui last season, and Lookman hasn't been nearly the same player that he was last year and 2 years ago, partially because he obviously he wants to leave, so he's not really satisfied with staying here. And I think you combine that, you combine that with the loss of the coach, and you look at the fact that they've had 7 draws this season as well, and they haven't won a game in their last 5 matches either. So, and even in the Champions League, they are doing slightly better in the Champions League, having a positive record. They beat Club Brugge, they beat Marseille, and although they got smacked up by PSG, my overall impression of them is that they're kind of just middling right now. Big up to you, Chelsea Sessions. Big up to you, bro. Big up to you, Tyrone. Right now, we're just doing power rankings for kind of the club season. I was supposed to do this like last international break as well, so it's a bit on my part. It's a bit of my fault for being a bit lazy, to be honest. So yeah, but I'm getting to it now though. So let me know in the chat what you think of these. These have been my rankings so far for the clubs that I know a little bit about. So far I have Arsenal in S, I have Roma and Bournemouth in B, I have Frankfurt in C, and I have Mönchengladbach and Fiorentina at F. Just ranking their starts to the season, and right now I'm kind of evaluating Atalanta's start to the season. And with that being said, I'm probably going to put them at D, to be honest, because they haven't been great themselves, but they're not like that far off the top. Like they're 6 points away from the European places. They're not really in a relegation battle per se right now, and they've been doing pretty decent in Europe, all things considered. So that's probably where I would probably put them at D. Next up, we have Atletico Madrid. And honestly, when it comes to Atletico, it's really funny because if I had actually done one of these lives when I was supposed to, they would have been like F. So obviously, they had that terrible start to the season where I think they only won one of their first 3 matches, I want to say. Let me look back at it because I don't fully remember. So they won one of their first 4 matches, so they actually won this going into the first international break. Since then, actually, they've actually been pretty good generally. Like obviously they beat Villarreal, who themselves have been really good this season. They beat Madrid 5-2. They beat Frankfurt 5-1. They got smacked up by Arsenal though, but they did also beat Real Betis. So I think honestly, what I probably say has been impressive about Atletico Madrid is their record in big games so far this season. Like I said, even though they lost to Arsenal and they got smacked up by Arsenal, it was a pretty competitive game up until about 70 minutes. Right, they've beaten the team in 5th place, they've beaten the team in 3rd place, and they've beaten the team in 1st place as well. They're currently in 4th as well, only 3 points behind Barcelona in 2nd and 6 behind Real Madrid, which is pretty good again when you consider the abysmal start they had to the season. And then in the Champions League, they haven't been as good. Um, with losing two and winning two. Obviously, losing a close game to Liverpool that I think that they came back from to lose in the last minute. Right, they destroyed Frankfurt 5-1. They lost to Arsenal, and then they beat Union Saint Goal. I cannot pronounce their name, but I'm just calling USG. But they beat them, and they're playing Inter next. So I think we're going to get a better sense of where they're at relative to the other top teams. But I think they've done well to recover from their bad start to the season. But I can't exactly overlook it either. So I'm probably going to put them at B now for that reason. Okay, next up we have Tottenham. And Tottenham are a bit of a weird case. So in their last 4 matches, they've only won one of them. And they had started the season off better, right? Like they beat Man City back in August, thanks to that good first half performance. Ben Johnson got his goal, or Brendan Johnson, should I say, got his goal, and then there was the whole mistake with James Trafford that they were able to capitalize on. Even in the Champions League, they haven't actually lost a game yet. They beat Villarreal, who are a good team in their own right. They drew with Bodo Glimt, drew with Monaco, and they beat Copenhagen. So they haven't had a particularly difficult Champions League schedule yet to navigate. And in the league, right, you kind of look at some of the losses they had. They've lost to Chelsea. They lost to Aston Villa. I'm wondering who the other team that they lost to was as well. Was it Newcastle? That was in the EFL Cup. So who did they lose to in the Prem before that? And they lost to Bournemouth. Tottenham are interesting because a lot of their fans have been complaining about their, I guess, inability to break teams down, which is a bit funny when you consider that they have scored the 4th most goals in the league, right? But I think that this more so speaks to how they've done in certain games as opposed to how they've been doing consistently. But I'm curious to see what the games look like. So they scored 2 against United, 3 against Everton, 2 against Brighton. So that's 7 goals. 3 against Bournemouth, 2 against Man City. So that's 15, and 3 against West Ham. So they've been giving some teams the business. Like they've been giving some teams the business. So it is a bit funny to, I guess, kind of see that criticism from their fans about how the football is boring under Thomas Frank. But I think he's been able to bring a level of consistency and stability to Tottenham that obviously Andrew is just not going to do given his play style. And I think, given the fact that they finished 14th last season, right, the season should have been more about, steadying the ship. That this is a team that conceded 65 goals last season. Okay. So that's almost 2 goals a game. And they've pretty much halved the amount of goals they were conceding per game. And they've been doing that while, obviously not scoring. Well, actually, no, they've been keeping a consistent amount of goals scored, right? Like the amount of goals they've scored per game is still about the same, although they're not creating nearly as many chances as they did under oh my gosh, why did I just blank on his name? I literally just said it too. That's hilarious. Under Ange. So they're not creating as many chances as they did under Ange, but their defense is a lot more stable. and right now they currently find themselves in fifth. So I definitely think they've been decent overall. I think maybe for Tottenham, well, the key for them is just to find a better balance in their midfield, because that's generally where I've been seeing the complaints been about their inability to really like get at the heart of teams. People have been talking about how like players like Bentancur and Paulinho, as good as they are defensively, just don't really have that kind of skill to play together and keep that defense steady while actually offering something going forward as well. Also, Javi Simmons has been someone that has been struggling to really be effective in key attacking areas. Um, and then also the fact that, you know, like even in their build-up play hasn't been as amazing as, you'd want it to be. So that's kind of where the Tottenham fans kind of have their complaints from. But overall, though, I think results-wise, they've been doing the business. So, especially again considering that they finished 17th last season, I'd probably give them a slight A for now. Um, I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give them a slight A just for being able to, I guess, keep a level of offensive consistency while massively increasing their stability defensively. But I think um, they're going to need to kind of work on the in between game more um, if they're going to really be a consistent lock for the top four. So next up, we have Bayer Leverkusen. Obviously, they're 2 seasons removed from their epic Bundesliga win, and um, they had a pretty bad start to the season where they didn't win either of their first 2 games, and they had like thrown a game away. I think they had like a 2-goal lead or something like that. This is when Ten Hag was still here. And I mean, to be fair, ever since he left, they have been pretty good. Like they're currently fifth right now. They're in that cluster with teams like Leipzig, Dortmund, and Stuttgart as well. Statistically, they have been pretty good going forward. Second best attack in the league, fifth best in terms of defense, third in terms of possession, second in terms of big chances. So it shows that they're creative, they're able to stay in games, they're defensively solid. They have the makings of a team that should be at the top end of their league table. And what I would be more so curious to see, and I should have pulled up this earlier, is maybe more so like the difficulty of their fixtures. So if we were to look at their fixtures, I'm curious. I want to see who they've beaten. So they beat Heidenheim 6-0, beat Benfica, Paderborn, Freiburg, Mainz, Berlin, St. Pauli, Frankfurt. Um, okay, so it seems like just even on the face of it, their schedule hasn't been the hardest to start the season. Like the best team they've beaten in the Bundesliga so far have been Frankfurt, who themselves are in that cluster of teams that I was talking about. So I think that'll definitely be important to keep in mind. And then seeing that upcoming fixtures, they're gonna have to play Wolfsburg away, Man City away, Dortmund twice in the cup and in the league, Newcastle at home. So I think this next month worth of rounds is really gonna show us how good of a team they actually are. So, I'll definitely be interested in and looking forward to that. But yeah, so far I think they've been good for what they've needed to be. And then in the Champions League, they've not been the best. They've only won one game, which is their most recent one against Benfica. Obviously, getting smacked up by PSG 7-2, and then not being able to beat PSV or Copenhagen is not a good look. If I were to be fully harsh, so I think, and especially getting pieced up, getting pieced up by PSG the way they did it, and they had some pretty easy. They've had some pretty easy games in the Champions League so far. Outside of the PSG one, obviously, and only coming up with one win from those other 3 matches. And given the somewhat easy schedule they've had so far, and the fact that they get smacked up by Bayern, which should have been obviously the best team they've played so far this season, I'm probably going to put them at a B. I think I just need to see a little bit more from them, just to see that they're able to kind of sustain the level that they've shown so far when going up against a sterner test, which obviously I can't really fault them for doing until they've actually played those harder teams and not performed. So I'm not going to project that they're not going to perform if they haven't done anything yet. But yeah, I think right now, so I'm going to put them at B, just for now anyway, until we get a better sense of what these guys are capable of. Like I said, they've done well so far with the teams they have in front of them, but they haven't really had anyone to. They haven't had like a gauntlet of teams to test them so far. They've 2 best teams they've played so far, or let me say more so the 3 best teams they've played so far. They've won one and gone smacked up in the other 2. So I don't want to get. So I'm not going to give them that much credit yet. And next up we have Bologna, who honestly shout out to Bologna sandwich, man. This is the 3rd season in a row they're contending for a European spot, and they're fighting out with the big boys of Serie A. Obviously, last season they were in the Champions League, and this season they're in the Europa League. So far this season they are in 5th place, and they're unbeaten in their last 5 matches. They just beat Napoli, who have been first for most of the season so far, in their last match. So impressive performance by them there. In terms of kind of what they've been doing well this season, they're 2nd in the league in terms of goals scored, 3rd in the league in terms of goals conceded. So you can tell they really mean business in terms of being up there with the big boys. 3rd in terms of clean sheets. They again 3rd in terms of big chances. So that shows again that they've been consistently performing at an output that would put them with the top teams. I guess the thing that I find interesting, just looking at these statistically, is how their amount of big chances differs from their XG, because they're like 3rd in terms of big chances, but they're only 9th in terms of XG. So I'd be curious to see just how close the big chances number actually is. So I'm just looking at it right now, and there are it's actually hilarious. So the teams are actually really close, because I said that they have 25. So between them in 3rd and let's see who's here. Them in 3rd and Pisa in 15th, separated by 5 big chances, which is actually a decent amount, to be fair. But yeah, I'm wondering, I guess, why the discrepancy is so high for them. But I'm not really going to harp on it too much. But even XG defensively has them around top 4 in terms of defense. And they're not particularly high in the tackles or interceptions, which tells me, or even possessions once. So that tells me that they just employ a really good mid to low block, and they know how to pick their chances off well. to also score. So that is quite impressive. And then I wonder how they're doing in the Europa League. Tyler, bro, why are you doing this, bro? Listen. I know that Serie A hasn't been the best for a while, but if a team's performing right now, That's why they're power rankings. I'm not worried about what they're going to do at the end of the season. Okay, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. That's all I'm gonna say. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, man. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Okay, they got a pretty good Europa League record. 3 wins, 1 loss. That's not bad. It's not bad at all, to be honest. I'm wondering who they've beaten and who they lost to. So they lost to Genk. Or I'm crying. Sorry, I don't know why I scrolled up that high. For some reason, I thought Braga was Bologna, so that's my bad. They're actually down here. And never mind, their record's actually ass. So they lost to Aston Villa, drew with Freiburg, beat Basel, and they drew with Braun. I don't even know who Braun is. Who the hell are Braun? Where is Braun? Is Braun high? Who the hell are Braun? Why are they 11th? Who the hell are these guys? From Norway? Norwegian? Interesting. No, wait. What the hell? Nah, no way a team called Viking is top of the Norwegian league right now. I'm actually crying. Okay, yeah, the Europa League form is actual ass. I can't lie. It's garbage. So on that note, but it's also bologna sandwich. So like, I don't know. I'm not really sure what to expect from them. I have a lot of teams in the B category. I'm not gonna lie, and I don't know if I'm just giving them too much credit, but I think I'm willing to. I think I'm willing to stay with this. So next up we have Borussia Dortmund. And honestly, shout out to Dortmund. Like, they're a team that get clowned on a lot. And to be honest, they kind of deserve it. If I were to be fully transparent with you, like, they just be doing some dumbass shit. But like, I think they've actually been okay. To be blunt, I think they've been somewhat okay. And let's see that. Yes, they're currently. Let's see where they are right now. They're currently 3rd in the league. Have only lost 1 match against Bayern. Drew with Hamburg, which is pretty embarrassing. I'm not gonna lie. Like, and they drew with Leipzig, which is slightly less embarrassing. Let's see. Statistically, they have been what's it called? See, Dortmund, what are you up up to this season? Let me see. So they have been. Oh wow, I'm surprised. Attack-wise, they have not been particularly amazing, but they've been really good defensively, and so it seems like they're really, getting their position has been built back off the strength of their defense and not their offense, which is really not something they're known for. So I am actually kind of surprised about that. I mean, this is a team that last season was averaging like over 2 goals a game. In terms of goals conceded, they've more than like in terms of goals conceded, they've more than half their defensive frailty. So they're only conceding about 0.7 goals a match right now, compared to 1.5 last season. So you got to give them props for that. Although the fact that they've also kind of gone down somewhat substantially in terms of their attacking prowess is a bit of a cause for concern. But even right now, they're first in terms of clean sheets as well. They're still fourth in terms of possession, so which makes me wonder, like, exactly what are they doing with that possession to have only eighth and to be only eighth in terms of goals scored and 13th in terms of big chances. So it's not even like a thing of that they're really like missing their chances or anything like that. They're just not creating that much to begin with. Um, yeah, I just find it to be, I guess, a bit weird given just what we know about them and how like all out attack football has kind of been their main philosophy for a long time now. So it's definitely interesting to see them kind of shy away or kind of pivot towards a different ethos. In terms of Champions League, they have a positive record, so I have to give them props there. Although who have they actually beaten? Oh yeah, they had that game that they drew with Juve 4-4, but I'm not gonna give any props to that because I'm pretty sure they threw away like a 2-goal lead in like 10 minutes. Yeah, so that says more about them. To be honest, they beat Athletic Bilbao 4-1, but Bilbao have been trashed this season. Um, they beat Copenhagen and they got destroyed by Man City. So Dortmund are a bit of a weird place because defensively they've been good overall, but conceding four to Juve, conceding four to Man City. To be fair, I think they lost to Bayern only 2-1, so that one was a pretty close game. Um, and I'm curious, who is the best team they've beaten then, though, so far this season? Because it better not be Athletic Club. That's what I'm going to say. It better not be Athletic Club. Um, Shit, it might actually be Athletic Club. That's crazy. So Dortmund, I'm not gonna lie. Exactly. I was saying the exact. I completely agree, Tom. I was very shocked. However, so far in big games, they're 0-3. Right, they lost to Bayern 2-1. They got destroyed by Man City, and they conceded four to Juve and didn't win that game either. So I'm still gonna have to look at them quite questionably. Um, I think also, like I said, their inability to create chances at will, I think, is going to be something that they're going to need to have to fix because their top goal scorer, having only 5 goals in the league in November, is kind of unacceptable. And Guirassy is someone that I rate pretty highly. So I'm really surprised that his numbers have been this poor so far this season. Um, but you got to give some credit to their defense, though. So in terms of where I would put them, I think honestly, I think you could be a bit harsh here. I don't want to come off as a bit harsh here, but I think I put them in C because even though they're third, they haven't beaten a top team yet. They were showing tendencies at the beginning of the season to chuck leads, and like I said, they have attacking frailties right now. So again, defensively they have been good in the Bundesliga. Because I'm curious, what is their defensive record in Europe? Because in Europe they've conceded 11 goals in 4 games. So overall, they're looking at 18 goals conceded in the Champions League and the league in about 14 matches. So I have to side eye them. Hopefully, hopefully for their own sake they'll kind of improve, but I do think that is kind of crazy. I'll be honest with you. So next up we have Brentford. Honestly, shout out to Brentford, man. Like they lost their coach, lost their top goal scorer, and they're still respecting themselves. So I have to give them props, to be honest with you. I think the main thing that I'm really impressed with is the fact that they've kind of kept their scoring rate from last season, given the amount of plays that they lost. I've really liked the look of Igor Tiago. I was watching their game against Newcastle on Sunday, and I thought he was really good as a target man. Had a really good touch. His ability to, spray passes and play in his teammates, I thought was really impressive. And he's only 24. And I think right now he's like the second top goal scorer in the league. So I really like what they're doing in that sense. Goal scoring wise, they're like seventh in the league. They have been somewhat average defensively. I think they have a neutral goal difference. Obviously, they're going to be a team that plays very off ball. Like they're not a high possession team by any means of the imagination. Again, an above average attack, somewhat 6 in terms of big chances created. And I guess for them, you probably just want to really clean up their defense, which is a bit weird because I'm actually looking and it says at least that like they're like defensively they're slightly above average, I guess, if you go by XG, although like they haven't been amazing. Although I'm not really thinking about it too. I don't really think they've gotten I can't really think of a game where they've just gotten flat out destroyed by anyone. I guess they lost 3-1 to Fulham in the EFL Cup, and they lost 3-1 to Forest, which Forest are shit, so that's actually a very bad result. But yeah, generally they're not getting like hammered by anyone like that. I forgot that they beat Liverpool. How did I forget about that? So yeah, no, overall I think relative to their expectations, especially including what they have lost this season. Honestly, you probably have to give them like an A. I think they've done a really, really solid job. All things considered, if I were to be honest with you, they're only 4 points off of third, right? So and they've won 3 of their last 4. So yeah, I think you definitely have to give them credit for that. Okay, so next up we have Brighton. Everyone's favorite team to get scammed. Now Brighton have been doing okay as of late. They're on the same position as Brentford. Again, a couple points off of third place, about 4 points off of third place. A positive win-loss record so far. Looking at only 2 wins in their last 5, though. They did beat Newcastle. They beat Leeds. I guess what I'd be curious to see is who are they actually losing to, who they lost to in the league. So they got beat up by Bournemouth and Everton. They beat Chelsea. So that was a good result. They lost badly to Man United, but they've also beaten Newcastle. So honestly, it seems like, with them, it feels like a little bit more of the same from last season. They're looking at a above average offense versus a average defense. You know they're going to be a team that, and you're looking at a team that I'm actually surprised. In terms of like possession wise, they have gone down a decentish amount. Going down like to sub 50%. So this is definitely a team that's moving away from their, I won't say roots, but kind of their ethos under De Zerbi, right, and even a little bit of Potter as well. This is a team that has been about the same. So just generally, they're not really doing much different from last season. That's kind of where what I'm noticing. There's nothing about them that has really stands out as being anything amazing versus anything, I guess, really to cause for concern. Um, so I wonder if I guess maybe the first thing I think is a bit more interesting is how they have kind of gone up in terms of their pressing intensity. And I feel like a team like this, right, their results tend to be hit or miss, right? Like you look, they beat Chelsea 3-1, but then they got pieced up by Manchester United. They beat Newcastle, but then they got pieced up by Everton. So they're very like hit or miss. We're either going to be really good today or we're going to be really bad today type of team. And I guess I'm just kind of wondering like how their play style kind of suits them in that respect. And then obviously you look at last season. I think where did they finish last season? I like Loki forgot. There. So last season they finished in eighth. Um, and I mean right now they're not exactly far off from that, even though they're 11th. But like obviously they're off of it by like a couple points, so it's like not really that big a deal. So they've kind of just maintained their general levels from last season as opposed to really doing anything new and exciting. So I'd probably give them a C. I feel like a C is fair. Um, Cagliari, I don't really have much to say about. Oh God, oh my God, oh my goodness, this fucking team, this damn team, though. Um, hmm. This is who we got next. So I'm gonna save Chelsea for last, bro. This is obviously the team I support, so we're gonna talk about them. We're gonna talk about them last. Actually, let me sort out like who we're not gonna talk about because I don't want to waste you guys' time. We're not gonna talk about Leganes or Alaves or Empoli. Sorry, Augsburg. You're not even in the Prem anymore. Or St. Pauli, nor Genoa, nor Getafe. Well, I think Getafe have actually been like pretty good so far this season, but like I don't know, and I'm not going to pretend like I know because that would be unfair to you guys. But yeah, they've been like they're like eighth this season, but like anyway, that's beside the point. Um, not Girona, not Holstein Kiel, not Venezia, not Ipswich or Le Havre or nor Leicester, nor Stade Reims. I've not watched a single Wolfsburg game this season, so I can't lie. I'm not gonna lie and pretend like I have. Nor Nantes, nor Parma, nor Hoffenheim, not Montpellier. Actually, I could talk about Nice. Not Osasuna, not Vallecano, not Espanyol, nor Celta Vigo, Mallorca, Lens. Is this Valladolid? No, I mean, not Freiburg. Severe your ass. Not Brest. Not Rennes. Not Werder Bremen. Not Torino. No Toulouse. No Udinese. Honestly, it'd probably just be easier to move up the teams I am going to talk about. Okay. All right. So I want to make sure there's no team that I'm missing that I'm not going to bring up. All right, I'm satisfied with this. All right, I'm good. So let's continue. I'm not gonna lie. See, I'm not even really gonna. Oh wow. Okay. So next you have Bilbao, who have been. I'm not gonna lie. That I thought they would have been worse. I thought they were worse than this, to be honest with you. I mean, it's still been pretty bad, right? For some reason, I thought they were doing worse than they were, although they're not doing particularly great. I'll just looking at them. So obviously, Bilbao were a team last season that finished in a European spot. They made it all the way to the semifinals of the Europa League before getting pieced up by Ruben Amorim's Manchester United. So that's not a good reading already. Um, this season, as you can tell, like they haven't been particularly great. Their top goal scorers have 2 goals and one, and their top assisters have 1 assist. So like, not a great reading. Below average offensively, still pretty good defensively. Um, average possession team, average in terms of XG, below average in terms of big chances created. Defensively, they're a team that looks to win the ball. I guess it can win the ball back really well. Um, I do find this dichotomy a bit funny. Like, how are you one of the best teams in terms of winning the ball back, but you are also not a team that intercepts that much? So what? Like, is it like if you don't win the ball back, you're just going to kind of retreat into a low block and, just retreat into a low block? I guess. Like, I don't really get how that works, but and even XG wise, they have the best defense in the league in terms of XG. So basically, their main issue has just been the fact that they can't put the damn ball in the back of the net. And I guess more so that they can't create opportunities consistently enough to do that. So, which makes me wonder, like, who? Because first off, where's Sanset? Because I'm pretty sure he was their main top goal. He was their top goal scorer last season, right? Um, and even before we get to that, I think it's very telling that after Sanset with 15 goals, the next top goal scorer in the league had 7 goals. So, right, like, that's not exactly inspiring confidence in me that they're going to be able to turn this around. But is he injured, or has he just not played, or has he been ass? So he has been playing. He's just not scoring any goals, which is disappointing. And then I would also be curious to see, how they compare to what they were doing last season. So like even last season, they were like nothing special offensively. So yeah, this is their stats from last season compared to this season. So even last season, there were nothing special offensively. I guess they were creating slightly more opportunities. Last year, they were scoring slightly more. Defensively, they were slightly better, but they're still pretty good. So I don't really think that's that big of an issue. Although their interceptions per game has gone down by almost like 33%. Well, maybe not 33, but a considerable amount. So I guess I'm kind of wondering like why that is. I'll definitely have to watch more of Bilbao to see why they've declined so much. I'm crying. I guess you could say that. I guess you could say that. And I think it's one of those things too where, we're not gonna watch other teams' players as intensely as we watch our own players, right? So, you're always going to notice, you know, the plays that you watch a lot's flaws compared to plays that you don't see as much. I think that's kind of fair, right? Um, but to be fair, I'm not really sure what's wrong with Nico this season. Because yeah, like I haven't really heard much buzz about him overall, and I guess maybe he's thinking about how he probably should have taken the deal to go to Barcelona because he could have been in the spot that Rashford's in right now. Rashford's doing his thing. He's getting goals. He's getting assists, even when he's not particularly playing well. You know, big Champions League games. What is Nico Williams doing right now? So it's a very hard conversation to have, to be honest. But yeah, they're obviously. But I'm not gonna like wax thick about this any longer. Like they're quite clearly going to F. So we don't need to beat our drums about this until we die. So okay, next up we have Crystal Palace. Um, and let's pull up. Let's pull up what type of timing they've been on. So last season they finished in 12th place, but it was a competitive 12th place. Like they were only about 8 points off of like eighth, right? So this is a team last season. Obviously, they also won the FA Cup as well. Um, and then right now they're currently competing in Europe. And still trying to balance out a European campaign and a Premier League campaign. So we obviously know how difficult that can be, especially for smaller teams. Right now, they've currently find themselves in 10th, right? They've only lost twice, but they've drew 5 games. 14 goals scored, 9 conceded. I think they've been managing themselves pretty well. Again, only 3 points off of third. So again, you have to kind of really take these position spots with a grain of salt. And I care more about their proximity to the higher positions when kind of trying to evaluate their performance level this year. Statistically, they are about where I'd expect. Being average offensively, but they've been one of the best defenses in the league this season. Um, Actually, honestly, makes sense to me. I guess what I find hilarious is how little they put of possession they are, having the second least amount of possession in the league. And they have actually their attack has been really good. Well, in terms of creating chances, they've been really good. So I'm actually surprised at how little they've scored relative to the amount they create, because I think their XG is their XG is like 19, and they've created like 34 big chances, which is third in the league. And they only scored 14, so they're underperforming by like 5. And so I guess I'm really surprised, right? Because you think about likes of Mateta, you think of Sar, which are guys that have been kind of associated with having really potent attackers. So the fact that they have been so wishy-washy in front of goal is a bit surprising, right? Like, defensively, they're really solid. They're not a high pressing type of team. They're a team that are looking to camp low and hit you with the counter. And I'm actually really want to look at their attackers, because I really am curious as to why they're so poor in like relative to what their goal record says they should be. So Mateta is underperforming his XG by 2 goals. Sar by like 0.7. And everyone else is not really like on even one. So I'm wondering like where are these XGs coming from that they're not converting on? That's what I'm really curious about. That's what I find a bit funny. But overall, though, I mean, I think they have been. I think overall they've been about the same this season compared to last year. They have been slightly better defensively, but I think overall they um, haven't really like upped a level by any significant amounts. But at the same time, I don't think they kind of had to. They've already had like a really good base level to begin with. And I think in the conference league, they are currently ninth. So they won one, lost one, and won another one. Um, Now I'd kind of argue that, like, again, looking at their competition, they really should be higher in the table, but it is still early days. So I think for me, I'm going to put them in C. I feel like C is fair. I don't think they've done anything amazing. They haven't stood out compared to last season, but they have been able to maintain levels, which I mean ultimately is all you can really ask at the end of the day from a mid-table club, right? Next up we have Everton, and don't worry, guys, I'm trying to go a little bit faster on these. So Everton last season compared to this season, I think honestly similar to Crystal Palace, they've really just been about the same. They're not a particularly high possession team. They're defensively pretty solid. They don't really have. I think their best attackers have been Grealish and oh my gosh, what's his face? The guy from Marseille have been Grealish and Ndiaye. Dewsbury Hall has actually been pretty decent for them as well, all things considered. Tiano Berry, who they got from Villarreal, has been trash. And I'm not gonna. I had higher expectations for him, so I'm a bit disappointed in the fact that they haven't been able to reach it. I think offensively, 15th is a disgrace. If I were to be like really brutally honest, even like eighth best defense is not amazing, especially when you consider how putrid their offense is as well. But I mean, I guess because what are they in the league right now? They're like 12th, 13th. So like they beat Crystal Palace, they lost to Man City, they lost to Tottenham, drew with Sunderland, and they beat Fulham. Like honestly, I think they're just an average team. I think they actually not even average. I think they just do what they need to do. To be honest, I feel that's probably the first way to describe Everton. Like I don't think they really don't do anything amazing. Or actually, the offense is still bad. Like bottom five offense is terrible. So this they got to fix this. This is a disgrace. That what I'm looking at right now, what I'm seeing right now, that is a disgrace. Big chances wise, not as disgusting. They're actually is like as disgusting. So I feel like they probably just need to bring in another striker because where are you? Um, so what's going on? So Beto only 1 goal from 4 xG. Barry hasn't scored yet. So really, their strikers or lack of their striking has been their biggest issue because 15th in terms of goal scoring is this is a terrible number. This is a trash number. Like this is disgusting. So they got to fix that shit. Their strikers need to step up. So I'm gonna put them. I'm gonna put them in C just because they're not getting relegated or anything like that. But yeah, that's 15th is horrible. 15th is trash. Like 15th is actually that's diabolical behavior right there. Next up we have Barcelona. So a team that do not have a horrendously diabolical offense. So Barcelona this season have been diabolical, but like in a different way. Defensively, oh my gosh, these dudes have been ass. Like, and I think I'm really underselling how ass they have been. And I'll be honest with you, the numbers are not gonna. I don't think the numbers are really gonna justify how bad they've been defensively either. So, because Barcelona have probably been one of the teams I've watched the most, right outside of my club, and best offense in the league. Not surprising, they did this last season. In fact, I actually give them props. They're maintaining, their attack from last season. Their goal scoring rate is being maintained. So definitely give them props for that. But at the same time, 11th in terms of goals conceded. Not good enough if you're Barcelona. Again, we don't even need to look at their offensive stats. We know how good they are offensively. Again, defensively, average in terms of XG. And it's so funny because you look at their defensive stats, and basically the only thing that really jumps out to me is how good they are at winning the ball back. Like their counter press is pretty good. That's definitely usually been one of their best assets defensively. But I think, especially without Rafinha being there and Rashford, as much as I like Rashford, is not known for his ability to press other like his opponents. That's definitely never been one of his main strengths. And I think that hasn't really been the reason why they can't defend. Obviously, I think the reason why they can't defend is because of obviously their high line, which is the same thing that everybody's going to say. But I think one of the things that's kind of overlooked isn't just the fact that their line is high, but just also how narrow the line is. So it pretty much always like offers availability to the flanks. So people that have really good attacking fullbacks or really good wingers, then midfielders that can spray passes out wide, they're really just going to have a really good time against Barcelona. So I think defensively, that's definitely where they need to improve. Obviously, they lost Inigo Martinez through the offseason and they didn't replace him. So I think that's definitely coming back to bite them. And then looking at kind of what they've been doing in La Liga, obviously, like they got beat up by Madrid. They got smacked up by Sevilla. Sevilla have been ass. Sevilla have been ass. I mean, they've picked it up a little bit, but generally they've been ass. So, that's not a particularly good sign. But they are still second, only 3 points behind Real Madrid with all the things I just said. So, you can't really be too harsh on their La Liga form because, again, they still won 75% of their games, right? Even with all the things that I've just said, which is pretty impressive. But I think in Europe is where they've been not so good, right? They've won 2, drew 1, and lost 1. Obviously, that game against Club Brugge, if you're a Barcelona, you should be embarrassed. The fact that Club Brugge went up 3 separate times against you guys. The fact that Brugge had multiple opportunities to score even more goals than they did. They were getting smacked up by that Brugge winger. I do not remember his name, and I don't want to disrespect him because he did get 2 goals and an assist. So I want to make sure I have his name up. Forbes, this dude was actually Carlos Forbes. This dude was blasting their brains off, bro. That's what he was doing. He was smacking them around, and they had to rely on a lucky own goal to scrape a draw against Brugge. So again, it's not good signs there. Obviously, they lost to a PSG team with like half of its roster missing. So you got to look at them kind of questionable there. They scraped past Newcastle. Like, to be fair, I'm actually looking at this, and outside of this Brugge game, like, their schedule has been pretty hard, bro. I'm not going to lie. So, and they destroyed Olympiacos. So, I think so far this season, they haven't really, the best team they've beaten so far this season has been, it's been Newcastle. So, you know, you gotta keep that in mind. But again, early days, despite everything I just said, they have still been good in the league. They've already scored 44 goals in 14 matches, which is insane. Although they've conceded 22, which is also bad. So I say all this to say that I'm probably going to put them in. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to put them at A, but it's a very reluctant squint my eyes. I really could be pushed either way. Like, if someone were on this stream to like talk me off of giving them an A, they probably wouldn't have to do that much work to get me to not give them an A. That's what I would say. Bayern, I'm not even going to spend that much time on them. They're an obvious S. Like, I'm sorry. Like, they have not lost a game this season, and they right now they're currently 16-1-0. So like, yeah, I don't think I need to do too much to justify why they are where they're at. I mean, for God's sake, just look at this, bro. 35 goals scored, 6 goals conceded in the league, 14 goals scored, 3 goals conceded in the Champions League. You're looking at 49 goals scored already and only 9 goals conceded. So they have a plus 40 in the league and the Champions League. And you know, a 13-1-0 record in the league and Champions League. Like, they're going crazy. They're going crazy. We don't need to sit here and waste 4 or 5 minutes of our time to describe how good they've been. So next up we have Inter Milan. And right now they're currently sitting pretty at the top of Serie A. Although you find it a bit crazy, they've already lost 3 games this season, right? So they lost to Napoli a couple of weeks ago. And who else have they lost to this season? So they lost to Juve 4-3, and they lost to Udinese. So they've only lost 1 game since the beginning of September, which is pretty admirable, all things considered. Although they scraped past Kairat, so like, you're not looking good there. In terms of like the big games, like I said, they lost to Napoli, they lost to Juve, they beat Lazio, they drew with Atletico, they beat Roma, who are literally in second place. And am I missing any big games? I'm not. In terms of statistically, they have been best offense in the league. Defensively, they have actually been pretty suspect. Only 9th best defensively. So it is a bit kind of crazy. 3rd most clean sheets though. So that tells me like they kind of just get involved in these like stupid basketball matches. And you also have to keep in mind, like, I'm not gonna lie, bro, Serie A has been terroristic this season, bro. Like, they've been 17 games to have ended without a goal. So I do think defensively, like that 9th that you're seeing right there is definitely a bit skewed by the fact that none of these bumps can score goals, bro. Although 12 goals conceded in about 11 matches is not an amazing read for Inter, all things considered. But chance creation wise, they are clearing everybody else. clearing everybody else in terms of XG. So they've been making the most of creating opportunities and pouncing on them. They're almost a full goal per match ahead, in terms of goals scored. So they're clearing everyone in that sense too. 8 goals ahead of second place Bologna. So you definitely have to give them props. Offensively, they've been on the level this season. Even XG wise, XG has them as conceding like 5 less goals than they've conceded. I want to look right here. 3 less goals. Sorry, 3 less goals than what they've conceded this season. So you still have to give them respect. Like in terms of generally how they've been playing pretty well, and even in the Champions League as well. You're looking at 4 straight wins, only 1 goal is conceded. Beat Ajax, beat Slavia Prague, USG, and Kairat. So they haven't had a particularly hard Champions League schedule. And their big match record has not been great. So I don't think I can quite give them that S yet because I think 3 losses is a bit too much for me to overlook, especially to a Juve team that hasn't been particularly good themselves. And easy Champions League group, lost to Napoli, lost to Udinese. So, but I'm also looking 37 goals already scored, 13 goals conceded, plus 24 in the league and the UCL combined. All right, you look at all of that. Look at how much further ahead they are in the league in terms of their chance creation. I feel like I'm still definitely going to give them an A, but I don't think I can give them that S because I think they need to do more in the big games. Do more when they play the harder teams in the Champions League first before I put them in that category. Forest, they're going in F. We don't. Again, I'll be honest with you. Some of these guys, we don't really need to sit here and try to wax lyrical. Forest, they're going in F. They've been trashed, garbage. Only just won their second game this weekend. 20 goals already can see in the league. Only 10 goals scored. Which is I want to say is second worst. So we don't need to sit here and really try to justify this nonsense. I mean, yeah, look at what I'm looking at right now. 18th in terms of goals scored, 16th in terms of goals conceded. We don't need to do too much. So I have them in F. Fulham haven't been a fixture of good play themselves. I mean, their highest goal scorer is Harry Wilson with 2 goals and Ryan Sessegnon with 2 goals. So they're not cooking. That's basically the point I'm trying to make here. Again, 15th in terms of goals scored, 11th in terms of goals conceded. So they're not quite as bad as Forest, but they're not doing anything amazing either. I think they're they're 15th in the league. Only won one of their last 5. They lost to Newcastle, lost to Arsenal, lost to Bournemouth, lost to Everton. They have not been great. They are literally the oldest team in the league. So unfortunately, I think that age is starting to catch up with them, and they might be getting a mild form of dementia. But I'm going to put them at D because they've not been as bad as Forest have. And honestly, I'm really thinking about it. Bilbao, I think I might move them up to D. I feel like F might have been a bit too harsh. Yeah, I think D is a bit more fair. So next up we have Juventus. Bro, I don't know what's going on in Serie A, bro. How the hell are you Juventus top goal scorers? Juventus, a team that's given us Ronaldo, Trezeguet, Del Piero, Higuain. How the hell is a team like that with an extensive striker team? Those are just the dudes I named off the top of my head. How is a team like that giving us 3 goals in November, bro? Trash. Let's see, Juve this season. They're just not doing anything for their high standards. 5th in terms of goals scored, 6th in terms of goals conceded. It's like, dog, what are we doing here? Right? What are we doing here, my dog? Obviously, they just fired. I want to say they just fired their manager again, I think. You look at compared to last season, they haven't really improved like at all, actually. They're still the same drab, uninspiring offensively. They are still solid defensively, of course, but again, when you're Juventus, this is not good enough for a team of Juventus's caliber, which I do feel like that's fair to say, right? Like I don't think that's me being harsh or anything like that. I mean, granted, again, they're only 5 points off of top spots, so they're not like out of the title race or anything like that, but it's just not good enough for the standards that a club of this stature should have. Champions League wise, they have been horrible. They have yet to win a game. Um, Obviously, they drew with Borussia Dortmund 4-4, drew with Villarreal 2-2, lost to Madrid, and and drew with Sporting. Like they haven't had the easiest schedule so far, but they haven't had. But again, no wins is also a disgrace as well. So you're looking at a team that generally have been just kind of middling to below average, and I think a middling to below average team deserves a middling to below average score. I'm going to put them at a D. Like I think, again, for a team of Juventus' stature, for a team that won 9 in a row just not that long ago, I don't think that they are really doing themselves justice right now. I think they need a big revamp overall. So that's what I would say in regards to that. So next up, we have Lille from the French league. I think that they have been they've been very, how do I put this? They're going through a bit of a metamorphosis, I would say. Like they have been, honestly, they've actually been pretty good. They've actually been pretty good league performance. If I were to be fully honest, I would say that if you had asked me where to put them like 3 weeks ago, they would be pretty high. Obviously, they've lost 2 of their last 3 matches. So you're gonna have to go and look at them with some questionable eyes. But I would say up until then, like they had actually been doing themselves justice. So up until 3 matches ago, they were averaging over 2 goals a game, which is actually a considerable step up from what they were doing last season, at least offensively. Like that is like you're looking at almost like a 20 to 25% uptick in terms of goal scoring. You look at what they've been doing in the league, right? Like they're 5th in terms of goals scored, 4th in terms of goals conceded. So they've definitely been high up there in terms of high performing teams in the French league. And there's just been like a really big cluster of teams really vying for top spot in the league. Obviously, PSG and Lyon had played each other on Sunday, and PSG ended up winning in the last moments of the game to go into this international break, top of the league. But now Lille have been up there though. They've been able to consistently get high output. I definitely need to watch more of them to get like a better feel of my thoughts on them. But they have definitely been putting in work though. At least as far as the league is concerned. I guess the first thing that really comes to mind is they have actually played a lot of the top teams except for Marseille, and They lost to Lyon, got smacked up by Lens, and they drew with Lille. So I think that's kind of where their disappointment is going to be so far as that. And they lost to Strasbourg. So they've literally lost to every team in or around where they're at. They lost the team in first, third. They drew with the team in first, lost the team in third, fourth, and seventh. And these are all the teams in and around them. So I think that that's really going to be the disappointing thing for them is that they had a real chance to really stamp their authority top of the league, and they've just failed to capitalize on so far 4. So 3 draws and a loss, 4 separate occasions. So I think they need to get some cojones, man. And they need to show that they deserve to be in or around that mix by actually beating one of the teams that are in that upper echelon of the league. I think that's going to be what's important for them. So I'm gonna put them at. I feel like I should put them at like a B. But before I do that, what have they been doing in the Europa League? The Europa League. Okay, well, Europa League they've been. Well, they started off well, where they beat Braun, they beat Roma, and they lost to PAOK, and I don't even know how to pronounce the second team, but they're losing to some teams that they shouldn't be losing to. Let's put it that way. So I say all this to say that I feel like C is a fair result, right? They've been bad in the Europa League, or they've been on bad form, should I say, because they started off well, and then they haven't been able to really beat any of the teams on their same level. So I definitely want to watch at least some of the highlights of those games against the teams of their same level to wonder why they have failed to capitalize on that. But anyway, moving on. We have Liverpool, who they've beaten Arsenal, they've beaten Real Madrid, they lost to Chelsea, they lost to Galatasaray, which is bad, lost to Brentford, which is bad, they lost to Man City. Well, they got smoked by Man City, should I say, and they lost to United. So, and especially as of recently, they've not looked particularly great. I feel like they haven't been like Juve bad because performance-wise, they've probably been Juve bad, but they started off they lost to Crystal Palace in the EFL. But I don't want to be reactionary either. Right, like obviously right now they're 8th, but again, they're in that cluster, so that doesn't really mean much to me as of right now, because like they're in the cluster, like they're not like firmly in 8th or anything like that. So I think you have to factor that in. Obviously losing 5 games in the league is, well, disgusting. I think that's fair to say. Statistically, they've been below average defensively, and then offensively they've kind of fallen off a little bit, only being 6th, in terms of instead of being like higher up in that ranking. XG wise, they're 6th as well, 4th for big chances created. So yeah, I feel like C is fair. Like I don't need to be hyperbolic yet, but at the same time, they've been ass, and that's only fair to say. They have been ass. That's just the fact of the matter. It's no hate. It's no nothing like that. It's just it is what it is at the moment. Okay, next up we have Monaco, who they are currently in 6th place. Again, they're in that same cluster with Lille and Lyon, and looking up at PSG and all that. And I feel like for them, because they also were smacking teams originally as well, Fati has been, what's the word I'm looking for? He's been farming penalties to get his goal tally up. I respect that. Second in terms of goals scored, this needs to be fixed. Like this is a disgrace. You should not you cannot be a team trying to vie for the league and be not only just not good defensively, but below average, just flat out bad. So they need to fix that. They need to fix that. One clean sheet so far in the league is a disgrace. They got smacked up by Lens. Actually, what the fuck is going on in Lens? I'm gonna have to look them up. I don't know why they're smacking up teams like this. They got smacked up by Lens. True with Man City, right? They lost to Lille and they beat Strasbourg. So essentially, the best team they've beaten so far this season has been Strasbourg. But they got pieced up by a team in third and fifth, and they haven't even played. So they haven't even played Lyon, Marseille, or PSG yet, and they already conceded almost twice as many goals as matches played. So yeah, it's not. I'm not inspired by the looks of it. And on top of that, like Pogba has been supposed to come back for like basically like a month now, and bro is like just getting like random ass injuries every 2 seconds. So that's not really going to inspire confidence in me that they can turn this around. I mean, even last season, their goal scoring was around the same benchmark, but they were like considerably better defensively. So I'm wondering what happened that their defense just fell off of a cliff as much as it has. But yeah, 14th, the best defense in the league is unacceptable. Like I think that's just fair to say. That's unacceptable. You're not gonna win any leagues playing like that. Oh, I didn't realize they fired their manager, or he left. So I wonder why. They'll definitely have a big part to play in why I guess they've been so disappointing. But yeah, so I'm wondering why he left. I'll have to look into that. I didn't realize they fired their manager. That's kind of interesting. And why is this guy playing on the left? Yeah, I don't know what Monaco's up to right now. I don't know what the hell they're up to right now. Because that BRF guy was like going crazy when they first got him back in January, but it is what it is. I'm gonna put them in C. I'm gonna put them in C. But like they could honestly be in D as well. So I can go either way. I can go either way with that. Because like I said, you're not gonna contend for a league title having the 14th best defense. That's just not gonna happen. So we need to respect ourselves. Next up we have Cesc Fabregas Como. Como Estas. Shout out to them. This is their second season being in the top flight. So and right now they're currently in 7th position. Which I think is really good. They've only lost one game this season. I'm just looking at this, and 12 goals scored is that's diabolical. I'll be honest with you. For a whole team, that is kind of crazy. And I think that is going to have to be the main thing that they get over this season. Like Nico Pass has been involved in 2/3 of their goals. That is insane. That's diabolical. And that's not sustainable at all in any sense of the word. Right? Like you can't just rely on one player to cut the mustard for you. He needs help. And he needs help badly. So although like I said, this is only their second season in the top flight. So the real question here is what exactly are they looking to achieve this season? Right? Like only they will know that. Statistically, I don't know what's funnier. The fact that as bad as their offense has been, they're I don't know what's funny, how bad their offense is, or the fact that their horrendous offense is somehow still league average. Like, seriously, bro, what are we doing? What the hell are we doing? But anyway, they've been one of the better defenses in the league. Average offense, and I think that's what's going to cost them this season. I don't see them sustaining any kind of European push because 6 draws, 12 goals scored, and only one player has over only one player has over 2 goal involvements. That is a recipe for disaster if I've ever seen one. Like this is crazy. This is crazy. This is insane. This is genuinely this is nasty work right here that I'm seeing right now. This is nasty work. Nasty, nasty, nasty work. So, yeah, that's what I would say regarding that. So I'm gonna put them in like a B, only because it's their second season. But like that is diabolical. I'm sorry, like that's disgusting. What I just witnessed. And actually, before I do that, like, what did they do last season? Before I give them too much credit. So like last season they finished 10th, which honestly is probably about where they're going to finish this year because they can't go on doing what they just did. But like that's just not possible. It's not. Um I'm sorry. That's I just can't believe. I mean, their defense has gone considerably better, but bro, that is crazy. This is not sustaining itself. Um, I don't know why I put mines here. I don't have anything to say about them. We have, yeah, we had a lot of teams left. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna start speeding through this like lightning because I'm not trying to. It's already been almost 2 hours. Um, shit. Okay. Okay. We're gonna make this fast. We're gonna make this fast. Okay. AC Milan. AC Milan. AC Milan. They have been pretty good this year, all things considered. They finished 8th last season. They have been. They're not currently in third. Um, only 2 points off of first. Obviously, they brought in Luka Modric and Kunku, and some other players. They've had one of the third best offense and fourth best defense in the league. So they have definitely been considerably better. Obviously, this season they don't have any European football to worry about, so they can just focus on the league. And I think they've been using that to their full advantage. They beat Roma this season. They've beaten Napoli as well. They drew with Juve, and I think they're going to be playing Inter coming back from the international break. So far this season, you could say their big game record has actually been pretty good, and they beat Bologna as well. So they've beaten a lot of the teams, a lot of the top teams in the league. So honestly, I'm probably going to give them an A this season. I think that's fair. Next, we got Manchester City. Um, let's see. This season, they have been. Well, let me not even say they. Holland has been on a freaking tier single-handedly. Um, offensively, I think they're the top goal scorers in the league, but like it's basically off the strength of Holland mostly by himself. They still create a lot of chances. They have been better defensively this season for the most part. Um, oh my goodness, this thing got frozen. Okay, sorry guys, I have technical difficulties. I'm gonna have to go in and come back out. My apologies about that, guys. I don't know my laptop. I need a new laptop, like really badly, but that was a bit annoying. I'm crying. Did it just reset? Okay. Actually, I was just talking about City. Well, at least it didn't move the teams already put on. No, that would have been annoying. Anyway, I was just talking about City. I was gonna put them in. What was I just saying? I was saying that defensively they've gone considerably better this season in terms of their ability to play defense and just conceding less goals overall. They've been able to maintain their goal scoring levels as well. Haaland has kind of gone back to top form. He honestly looks about as good as I think I've ever seen him, at least in a Manchester City jersey. They have been, yes, the top goal scorers and the second best defense in the league this season. So, and then in Europe, they are fourth, haven't lost a game yet. They beat Napoli, Villarreal, and Borussia Dortmund 4-1, and they drew with Monaco. So overall this season, they've actually been very good. 30 goals scored, 11 conceded in 15 matches. I think that is a pretty admirable record. So yeah, I'm gonna put them in A. But again, just know this is basically off the strength of Haaland. And okay, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, this stream is getting like way too long. Like, so let's see what else. Napoli, I'm gonna put them because they have been ass, like dog crap in the Champions League. But I'll be honest, I kind of expected that, so I'm not that surprised. And then in the league, they have been pretty good. Well, at least defensively. Like, again, offensively, like they're not doing anything special. Although none of the league is doing anything special, so that doesn't really mean much. Like, they have the fourth best offense. Defensively, they're top 6. They're currently fourth in the table because they just lost to Bologna. I mean, I think they've been fine. Nothing grand, but yeah, what they're forming the Champions League is actual dog shit. So I'm gonna put them B because yeah, Champions League form is ass. Like it's not good. So let's pick here. Newcastle in the Champions League have been pretty good. 3 wins and 1 loss to Barcelona of all teams. They beat Benfica, Bilbao, and USG. Bilbao or Benfica probably been the best team they've been in Europe. Let's see, in the Premier League, they are currently 14th with only 12 points. So they've been ass in the Prem. They're 17th in terms of goals scored, which is diabolical. This is disgusting. Again, this is diabolical. And they've been average defensively and significantly below average offensively. Let's see. Their XG has them at being like slightly higher, like a couple goals higher than what they've scored. So not anything significant to show some kind of like trend of unluckiness or anything like that. Still 12 in terms of big chances. But they've been good in Europe though. So I feel like I'm gonna give them a C. Because even though like they've been good in Europe, their European schedule has not been, outside of Barcelona, a particularly hard schedule. So I feel like honestly, nah, I'm gonna give them a D but they did lose Isak, but they brought in they brought in the Wolfman, they brought in Walter Mead, they brought in Elanga, and they brought in what's his face? Vissa. So they spent money this season. They have not been particularly good. and even the competition they have been good in, they haven't had particularly hard schedule. So I feel like D is fair. See Marseille, they have been they've been ass in the Champions League. They've only won one game. They've been pretty good in the league. They're currently second. They actually have the best offense in League On. They're being powered by Chris Brown. That's what I call him. If you know, you know. And they're actually tied with PSG in terms of the best defense in the league as well. They're 2 points behind them, so they've been kind of keeping step to step with them, at least for the moment. XG wise, has them overperforming by about 5 goals, but they're still second in terms of XG. They have the fourth best defense in terms of, or third, sorry, best defense in terms of XG conceded. So their defensive prowess hasn't been a fluke. Again, though, in the Champions League, they have been ass. Like they've only won one game, which is unacceptable. They lost to Madrid, they lost to Sporting, and they've lost to Atalanta, who themselves are not having a particularly good season, and they beat Ajax. So I think they should be doing better than what they have been in the Champions League. So I'm going to put them at a B because I think their league form, just based off the strength of their league form. Lyon, I'm going to put them at a C. A C fair? Am I being a bit harsh there? Because they've been good in the, actually not good. They were good in the league, but they've only won one of their last 5, which is why they're all the way down at 7th now. And then I believe they're I want to say that they are in the Europa League. Yeah, in the Europa League, 3 wins and a loss, losing to Betis, beat Basel, beat Salzburg, beat FC Utrecht from the Netherlands. So their first other top 5 league opponent, they lost to them. Not a particularly good sign. So honestly, I'm probably going to, I think C is fair. PSG, I'm gonna put them. I feel like. I mean, they've lost 2 games in the Champions League so far. They have scored 38 goals, conceded 16. And they're doing this while basically having like a lot of their important players injured so far this season. Like Dembele's barely played. And so I feel like, you have to definitely consider that as well. Right. Obviously, they beat Lyon over the weekend. They've generally been without Dembele. Doué coming back late November. So is Nuno Mensch. Hakimi just got injured. In terms of their big game record, they beat Barcelona. They lost to Bayern. They beat Lyon. They lost to Marseille. They beat Atalanta. Atalanta been asked this year. They destroyed and smacked Leverkusen around. They drew 3-3 with Strasbourg. They drew 1-1 with Lyon. So honestly, I think they have been not amazing in the big games. I think they've done just enough. So I feel like an A. I feel like an A is fair, but it's like an A minus. It's definitely not like a strong A by any means. I'm just gonna say some ones out here. Lazio's an F. They've been asked this season. West Ham is an F. Wolfsburg is not Wolfsburg, sorry. Wolverhampton is an F as well. Valencia started off the season well, but then they became ass F. Betis, from what I can remember, I know Antony has actually been good again for some reason. Like, it's actually hilarious. Seeing the Europa League, they won two wins, 2 draws. Currently 5th in La Liga. Have the 5th best attack and 5th best defense. I'd probably put them. I feel like A. I'd probably put them in A. I think they've been good, all things considered, for who they are as a club. Real Madrid, I'd put them in A, even though they lost to Liverpool, and their performances have been amazing, but I think they've been consistent. Leipzig, what the hell have they been doing in Europe this season? Are they even in? I'm pretty sure. Are they in the Europa League this season? Or are they in the Champions League this season? I feel like they're in the Europa League this year. Oh, they're in neither. So, where did they finish last season? For some reason, I thought they finished like 5th or something like that. But Leipzig, at least in the league, have been good. Obviously, like, they lost. Well, I can't even say lost. They got smacked, Schmeckeldorfed by Bayern in their first game. But outside of that, they've generally been pretty good. Yeah, they've generally been pretty good for the most part. Obviously, they lost again this weekend, so now they're 6 points behind Bayern, which is not ideal. They have been 5th in terms of goals scored and 4th in terms of goals conceded. So, like, again, they've been up there with the other teams. I know they lost to and got destroyed by Bayern. They lost, or they drew with Dortmund. They haven't really played any of the other top teams yet to really have a strong opinion on them either way. So I feel like for them, a B is fair. I wouldn't want to go. I don't think I'd want to go higher than that. I think United, I'm probably going to put them at B as well. I think obviously they start off the season horrendously, but they've actually been doing pretty well for themselves, especially since like September. Again, relative to our expectations for them. Chelsea, I'd probably put in a B as well. They're kind of hot and cold, but they have had a lot of injuries. Their Champions League schedule, they haven't really beaten a big team yet in the Champions League. They did beat Liverpool. They did beat Tottenham. So those probably been the 2 best teams they've beaten so far in the league. United did beat Chelsea, and they did beat Liverpool themselves. So credit where it's due. So Wolverhampton was going to be F. Villa, they started off the season like really slowly. They've definitely been picking things up as of late. They are even like 6th in the Europa League. They beat Bologna, they beat Feyenoord, they lost to Go Ahead Eagles, and they beat Maccabi Haifa. So, like, not the strongest set of opponents out there, but they've won more games and they've won 3 out of 4 games. So I can't really hit on them too much. I think the most telling thing for them is the fact that they have been really good defensively, but a below average offensive team. And obviously, I think they didn't score for like their first 5 matches or something like that in the Premier League. So like that was obviously going to really skew how bad they've been, or how bad their offense is. So I think you have to kind of keep that in mind when you're kind of grading what their offensive strength looks like. So they've essentially scored 13 in like 6 games, which is not that bad compared to 13-11, which is obviously like pretty putrid. So basically, I think the 13th, like that little, like the 13th that you see here is obviously skewed by how bad they were in those first 5 games. So I don't think that's a true accurate reflection of how good this team is offensively anyway. But currently right now they are in 6th place again in that cluster. I have a decent enough spot in the Europa League as well. Probably put them in like the B range as well. I'd probably put them in the B range. I feel like that's fair. Where are they? Sevilla, I'm going to put them in C. They started off horrendous. They did beat Barcelona. In fact, they literally smoked them. So definitely got to give them respect for that. I think they've definitely improved as the season's gone on, but to start the year, they were not cooking. See, currently right now they are in 9th place. They're close to a European position, so I think that should be their goal, considering how average they've been over the last couple of seasons. Like, in the last 2 seasons, they've had 5 different managers. So, it's definitely not been stable for them as of late. But hopefully they can build some consistency. Like, obviously, they've only won one of their last 4 matches. So, there's definitely a lot of work that needs to be done in that sense. And their main issue has been defensively. Like, they are 16th in defense in the league. Like, that's not going to be enough to do anything. That's not going to be enough to get a Champions League spot, a Europa League spot, or a Conference League spot. So I think that's what they need to clean up is their defense. So yeah, I feel like C is fair though, because they haven't been particularly great for the last couple seasons. Strasbourg, I'm going to put them at a B. They've been keeping up with the big boys in the French league. So definitely kudos to them for that. They're going toe to toe with PSG. They've had some big performances. They beat Lille over the weekend. So they show they're not just like a bunch of pushovers. They are undefeated in the Conference League, and they're playing Crystal Palace in their next game. So in the Conference League, so I feel that will be an interesting game to watch. Right, like they're one of the best offenses in the league, in the French league. Their striker is going crazy, Pancelli. Slightly above average defensively, like nothing special. So I feel like B is fair. I feel like that is mostly it in terms of the teams I would care to talk about. Like, I could talk about Sociedad, but I've not really watched any of their games, so I don't really have anything to go off of in terms of what I would expect from them or anything like that. So yeah, I think this is gonna be what I end the list with. I don't see any teams here that I feel like I've missed. So yeah, this is gonna be the final list as of right now, anyway, as of November 12th. This is the list. This is the list I'm going with. So let me know what you guys think about it in the comment section below. Do you guys agree with the list? Do you guys think it makes any damn sense? Do you think I'm just bugging? But thank you for anyone who stuck around, because this took a lot longer than I thought or than I originally planned. And most importantly of all, remember to have a good day.